On this show, we cover some sensitive topics.
Though the obituaries may be outlandish, the people are real.
Names have been changed or omitted in order to respect both the deceased and the survived by.
While death is no laughing matter, some petty last words can provide some pretty entertaining comic relief.
Welcome to Obituary. Welcome back to Obituary. I'm Spencer Henry.
And I'm Madison Reyes.
And I think we're a little calmer today than we were last week, probably.
Definitely a little calmer. I loved that episode, though. Even our editor wrote to us and said, this is really good.
Oh, we don't get that a lot.
No, so when we do, we're like, okay.
Oh, God. It's been a runaround week, I would say, over here. Lots to tell, but I'll save that for...
You're saving that for Patreon.
Yeah, I'm saving one story for Patreon.
Because it's personal.
Yeah. Just a testament to my insanity. It was very much like an errand week, but it was also one of those weeks where I'm like, I cannot wait for this week to be over. Like, I was so ready for today, for Thursday. We have a lot to talk about. So first of all, you came over on Monday.
On Monday?
Or was it? Or no, Tuesday.
Tuesday night.
You came over Tuesday night. We were doing some work, but also just hanging and making hot dogs and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then we were sitting there and it was just like, okay, everything's so calm right now. And then this beeping starts.
Oh my gosh.
And if you recall, Geoffs, just what was that? That was in April, I think, around Easter time when the beeping catastrophe happened.
I was laughing because we were going through an episode editing some stuff and I kept hearing this beeping and I'm like, is that coming from my computer? And then I paused and looked at you and you were like, no.
I said, oh no, not again.
No.
So we went out. I didn't even have fucking shoes on. We're walking around my like little neighborhood block and we're like trying to see if it's coming from a certain house. I was like, it can't be. It can't be. It can't be. Lo and behold, the call was coming from inside the house.
Inside the house.
There's like a little casita situation in my backyard. We realized that that is where the alarm was coming from, but it was my smoke detector, not my carbon monoxide, but my smoke detector going crazy. And I was like, we didn't sell smoke. There's nothing out there. No one's been out there. I was just like, what is going on?
But what ran through both of our heads is somebody is living in there.
I said, somebody broke in. They're smoking drugs in there.
Yeah.
And because I was trying to unlock the door and there's like 2 deadbolts on that door out there and I couldn't get it open. And I turned back to Madison. I said, someone in there. So we put hot dog inside and she's like, you have a weapon? I'm like, yeah.
I was like looking through my purse. I'm like, maybe I have my taser.
Yeah.
I think I might have my taser.
I have these big candlesticks, these big metal candlesticks. So we're out there like we're in the fucking Clue movie, like Mrs. fucking Hoover in the fucking casita with the
I look like Mrs. Trunchbull walking out there with a candlestick like over my shoulder. Like
they're
I
tall,
was in sweats.
They're tall and sturdy. Like that would fuck somebody up.
Oh, they probably weigh 40 pounds. They sit on the floor. They're very tall.
Yeah.
We swung those over our shoulders and we're ready to fuck somebody up.
Ready to fight. I busted open the fucking door and lo and behold, nothing. And it's weird because it wasn't the battery like noise. It wasn't like beep.
Yeah, you didn't have to change the battery.
It was
just
going off.
Did it? Yeah. Well, at one point, I walked through by your neighbor's house and I was like, meet me in your backyard. And so you were like, okay. And you went back and then I went through to your neighbor's house and I was looking in their windows because I thought, because all of their windows were open. I'm like, maybe it's coming from there because it kind of sounded like it. I'm like, maybe they burnt something because it was around dinner time.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm in their windows looking. And yeah, lo and behold, the call was coming from inside the house and it was just a fluky kind of thing.
Was not a repeat offender. But what was a repeat offender is the next day I'm outside. What do I fucking see fly past my window?
The hawk.
Another tarantula hawk.
Tarantula hawk.
Are you kidding me? And I've learned that they like fermented fruit. And my lemon tree, part of like one of the big limbs on a lemon tree in my backyard, fell on the ground and was kind of rotting. And so I think that that is why they've been coming around.
Mm-hmm.
But it's since been taken care of. They came and removed that part of the tree today, and all's well. This is so boring.
Should we just get into it then?
Yeah, let's get into it.
I have a listener email.
Okay.
And I want to read it because the episode 1 star, OBITCH 1 star, just came out.
Yes.
And it's in response to that. So it's like a funeral home situation.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Okay. It says, "Hello, Spencer and Madison. Please feel free to use my name and story on the pod. I'm currently listening to OBITCH 1 star, and it made me think about my most recent experience. Unfortunately, last year I lost one of my best friends from high school due to cancer. It was so unexpected for me, and I'm sure it was for her family as well. I moved to Washington a few years back, so this friend and I kept in contact while she still lived in Vegas. I haven't seen her in person for a couple years, but I saw her pictures all the time since we had one another on social media. I flew back home for her service, and her family had an open casket. This is something I've only experienced one other time in my life, and I was so young, my mom did not want my siblings and I to view the body. As soon as I got in, my best friend's younger sibling greets me, and we exchanged a few words, and before I sit, she says, 'Please go and view my sister.' I told her I would at the end of the service just because I was already having a hard time coping with everything. At the end of the service, everyone is getting up and standing in a line to pay their respects. I get closer to her casket. I'm standing in line with one of our high school teachers and a few of our friends, and I catch a glimpse of her and have a total breakdown. I start hyperventilating and hysterically crying, trying to compose myself. She looked nothing like how she did when she was alive.
That freaks me out.
That is scary. Her skin was dark, almost dark grayish. She was an olive complexion. Her lips were a dark purple/blue. Her tongue was almost hanging out of her mouth. And her eyeshadow on her was this weird pink color.
What?
I'm not sure what they thought when the makeup was being done, but it was traumatizing to see what they did to her.
Oh my God. I don't even know what I would do in that situation. Are you like, do we close the casket?
I know. Or do we just try to ignore it? Like,
whoa.
God, I understand that when people pass, they will not look exactly how they did when they were alive. I'm sure having a terminal illness doesn't help either, but I had seen her on FaceTime a few weeks prior, and I know she did not look like that.
God.
The image is still stuck in my head till this day, and I really try not to let that be the last memory I have of her, but it is so damn hard to shake. You guys have opened my eyes so much more when it comes to death, and I appreciate that. Continue doing what you do. Much love, Des." I feel like there is no excuse for stuff like that. Yes, of course, people look different, and sometimes it's like beyond repair, right? But to have her tongue almost hanging out,
that's crazy.
That is insane. That's careless.
Uh-huh.
You need to leave that funeral home a 1 star and fuck them.
Dude, that's fucking wild, man. First of all, sorry for your loss.
First and foremost, that's terrible. We know what it's like to lose childhood friends, and it's awful.
God. I don't know how I wouldn't like try and beat someone's ass.
I know.
I don't know how. I mean, I guess because everything feels bigger. I'd beat somebody's ass.
I would be whooping asses in the funeral home.
I would have that candlestick.
Candlestick? Yes.
Boo, 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 boo.
Uh-huh.
Fuck.
Oh, I'd be ripping the flowers off and fucking pummeling someone.
Shit. Damn. That's
Makes
asshole.
me so mad.
Asshole behavior on behalf of the funeral home.
Exactly.
And speaking of,
okay,
we've got some assholes to cover today. And this first one says, "Am I the asshole for insisting my aunt make me a partner since she needs me to run my deceased uncle's business?"
Okay.
I have worked for my uncle's landscaping business for the past 6 years. Quite sadly, we lost my uncle this past January. Since his passing, I have been running his business as his wife, my biological aunt, had no involvement with it or idea as to how it was managed. I'm the one talking to clients, managing the books, ensuring people are getting paid, etc. Meanwhile, my aunt is nowhere to be seen. At the beginning of this month, I told my aunt that I am running her business, but really getting nothing in return for my effort. I told her that I wanted to become a partner in the business. I also feel that as the one doing all the work, I should deserve a larger stake. So my suggestion was 65-35. My aunt already has a very good paying job, so this would just be passive income for her to enjoy while having to do absolutely nothing in return. Naturally, she has refused. She says I'm exploiting her situation and feels I should respect my uncle's wish that their son take over the business. Meanwhile, their son is 14 and has expressed no interest in running the company at all. Hell, he threw a tantrum at the suggestion of working a few weeks with me this summer to learn some of the ropes. I did offer to teach my aunt how to do the job, but because of her existing job, she declined. And I have said that I will not train another person in the company to replace me since obviously such an arrangement only harms me. This past weekend, I told my aunt that if she doesn't agree to my terms, then I plan to leave her company this coming July. I have not told her this, but I'm considering starting a competing company, and I know for a fact several of her employees and clients would follow me. Since laying out an ultimatum, my phone has been blowing up. My aunt has called me every name in the book, accused me of shitting on my uncle's legacy, and it's been very clear that she'd fire me if she could. Other family members are also upset. My grandparents have outright told me I'm exploiting the dead, and my mom feels that I should leave my aunt her company and just ask for a raise for my extra work. Others have remained neutral or suggested it probably is best for me to leave and find other work and let her sort out her own situation. Am I the asshole here?
Okay, I don't think you're the asshole for wanting more recognition and for wanting a pay raise and all of that, or to be made partner. I do not think you're an asshole. I think closed mouths don't get fed. I think you need to ask for what you want. But to suggest that you're going to go create a competing company, that feels spiteful. That feels shitty. That feels like you're an asshole to me.
I think it's really generous. The aunt's not doing fucking anything, right? This company could just go to the ground, right?
Yeah.
I think it's generous to be like, let's do a 65-35 split. Mm-hmm. I think that is generous. And if the aunt won't agree to that, then I could see being like, well, I've gotten to know this business. I know how to do this now. I could go fucking run another business like this myself and make all the profit. I say it's a dog-eat-dog world.
I don't know. That feels shitty to me.
Yes, but I also feel like she should agree to the change. He's the one doing all the fucking work.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, yes, her husband built up the clientele and stuff. So yeah, it's not fair that she's getting all the money and she's not doing any of the work, though, at this point.
Right. So I don't think this person's the asshole for that.
Offered to train, and her reasoning isn't, oh, well, I want to do it. It's because, oh, well, our son one day or whatever.
Yeah.
But the kid's 14 and has no desire, and obviously that can change. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're an asshole, though.
Yeah, I got to sleep on it.
A halfie?
A halfie.
This next one says, am I the asshole for ruining a funeral and potentially costing a lot of family members their jobs?
Well, it sounds like it already.
Says, my grandparents passed away recently and I followed the guidelines my grandma set up for her final event. Her church, her burial plot, her casket, and the same for my grandpa. I just didn't expect it to be a joint funeral. I sent out the notifications to friends of theirs and family after the date was set in stone, and their friends all came, so did most of my grandma's church, but no family showed up. I wasn't surprised. I hadn't seen most of them in about 4 years. I had a great time with my grandparents' friends, and then I went back home and cried my heart out. I had been their sole caregiver, and I didn't know what to do without them. I had taken care of them for 15 years. It started with little things like lifting heavy things and escalated to needing to change the bed twice a night sometimes. I was empty and started to scroll through my grandpa's Facebook to see pictures he posted before his memory went. I found a group started about 3 years ago that was flooded with activity. When I went poking around, I found found out it was my mother who was hosting a funeral at her church and was trying to get the final expenses taken care of. I was stunned. Here was the woman I hadn't spoken to since throwing her out of the house for stealing jewelry and upsetting my grandma terribly by using her Alzheimer's against her. How could you forget my birthday? You promised to give me this.
Oh, that's evil.
I went to the funeral my mother had planned and listened to the pastor, and then my mother got up to talk. She told everyone how hard it was taking care of them, and something inside of me roared to life.
Oh.
I don't remember everything I said, but it did include that she didn't pay for anything for them, not their caskets, not their burial plots, not their cremation, nothing. I told everyone I put them to rest at the funeral Grandma planned herself 4 days prior. I said she'd never paid for any of their care or even seen them for 4 years. I was asked to leave and I drove home. Later, a cousin asked me if what I said was true, and when I said it was and I could provide proof, they explained that my mother had been taking funds from the family for years to pay for their care at a facility because they had outlived their insurance policy. They also explained I got a lot of people in trouble because somewhere in the speech I shouted I had done it all alone for years without any help. A lot of family members used my grandparents as an excuse to get out of work and had invited their coworkers to the funeral. By hearing my outburst, they were now in trouble for lying as for the reasons to leave work or miss days. She then went on to ask me about the inheritance and when that would be passed out. I told her that if anyone had earned the inheritance, it had already been taken care of. I thought I was in the right, but now I'm doubting myself after so many cousins and family members are calling me to tell me I handled it really poorly. Am I the asshole? Did I handle this badly? Everyone's telling me I did.
I don't think so. I think I would have probably done the same exact thing. A side note, I think it's wild to invite a coworker to a funeral.
Okay, well, I guess the coworkers had donated to like GoFundMe's and stuff for this.
Oh, okay, then that makes sense. No, I don't think you're an asshole. I think it's like coffin confessions.
That's the truth, and the grandparents are probably sitting there like, good.
Good, because fuck our daughter for not coming. Fuck her for using Alzheimer's against them. Fuck her for everything.
And
you're a nasty person.
If there's one thing we fucking know, it's that when somebody dies, that's when the rats show up. Okay? In the final moments. Oh, all of a sudden, you're so invested in this person's life, right?
Yep.
That's when the rats show up. That's when the fucking hawks show up. And we're not talking Tarantula hawks. We're talking money hawks.
We're not talking Autumn either.
Yeah, we're not talking to Autumn the hawk. It's fucking rats, and it's low, and it...
Vultures. Yeah.
Bunch of fucking vultures. So, not the asshole. Good on you. And also, if they wanted to, if I was the person who had lied and used it as an excuse, and that happened at the funeral, I would tell my coworkers, I'd be like, she is crazy.
She's off her meds.
Yeah, I would be fucking lying. Oh, shit.
God.
Yeah, well, that's the truth of it all. But I'm up first this week. I know that.
Okay, well, I have a little side bitch, and let's call this person May.
Okay, we're using a name. May.
It's like a shortened, May croaked at the age of 90 years old on August 7th, 2021. I wrote this obit and paid for it. A fearful child who overcame his fears to become a military officer, scuba, and skydiver, light plane, slider pilot, and entrepreneur. In the end, I was not afraid of anything. I will be remembered for a while by my family, all whose names I am far too cheap to list, and a few friends. I had a pretty good life, and everyone dies. Bye-bye.
Oh, shit.
I love him.
Hey, I love that too. That's like, you know what? Here it is. I croaked. See you fucking later, man.
Straight to the point. I love it. No BS.
No BS. We like just a straight shooter around these parts. But we don't know how to do that, which is why we ramble on forever.
Oh my God, we were on a call earlier, like a business call, and they mentioned Truman Capote, and I was like, oh my God, and I went off for...
Truman Capote.
Oh, maybe I fucking am obsessed. But I was going on and rambling, and Spencer was like, oh God, she's going to keep going on. And I had to stop myself and apologize.
Well, because I was like, okay, let her finish this. So I'm looking at everyone on the Zoom and I'm like, okay, she needs to stop. And I was like, okay, she's going to go on forever. So wrap it up, babe.
God, all right. Well.
Yes. There we go. Rambling again. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll hear what had me spinning in my coffin this week.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
And we're back. Spencer, what had you spinning in your coffin this week?
Well. This week, I decided to do a little journey into the world of, wells.
Wells are freaky.
Wells are scary, right?
Yeah. Okay, let me sit back for this.
Comfortable for this.
You never see them anymore.
Not around these parts. Well, this was one of those random ideas that popped into my head. I was just,
everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes I'm like researching one thing and then or I'm like looking in books for topics to talk about for the week. I just randomly was like, what about wells?
Okay.
No one's talking about wells these days. But there's like so much lore around well stories. There's like the baby Jessica story.
Yes.
I'm going to get into that full story later.
Okay.
But I want to talk about wells first, and I'm not going to give you the fucking history of wells, just in relation to horror and death.
Okay.
Sorry.
I need to know.
You'd be like, the first well was...
That's my style, man.
So I was doing some research, and wells often play a significant role in horror movies, I guess, due to their deep symbolic and atmospheric elements. There's some reasoning behind that, and I obviously think of The Ring.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a symbol of the unknown. They're deep, they're dark, they're often not in plain sight, making them perfect symbols for the unknown because they evoke the fear of what lies beneath, which can be, powerful.
That's deep.
They also represent places of confinement or entrapment, which taps into the primal fears we all have of being trapped or buried alive.
That really would be the worst thing, to fall into a well. Like so deep.
Falling
can't
into
get
a well.
out.
Fuck that.
Dark.
Filled
with water. Maybe not.
Sometimes
bodies.
Depends if it's being used or not. Like what was the contraption in castles, like the oubliette?
Totally.
Uh-huh.
Same vibe.
Yeah, I just thought of that. It's a very similar vibe. Those sound worse because they were like a toilet too on top sometimes. God. But
Can you imagine? I can't even deal.
I would just die. Or like how people fall into porta potties.
If
I fell into a porta potty, I don't want to come out of it. Leave me.
I want to come out of it.
No, I want to die. In many cultures, wells have historical and folkloric associations with spirits, curses, the supernatural. And that's not always scary because you can also think of like that philosopher, Carly Rae Jepsen, like I threw a wish in the well. And that's wishing wells is a thing too. But it's also just like a very isolating experience being stuck in a well, obviously. A lot of people think that cursed objects or bodies or supernatural entities are at the bottom of wells. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you can't see the bottom when you're looking down from the top of it. And that's also fucking unsettling. Mm-hmm. But I want to get into some real life horror stories involving wells, and I'm going to kick us off with the rescue of Jessica McClure, more commonly known as Baby Jessica.
Okay, I have heard her name growing up so much, and I don't really know the story.
Well, you're gonna. So this happened in Midland, Texas. Jessica was just 18 months old when she fell into a well in the backyard of her aunt's home on October 14th of 1987. I was reading about this, and I think her aunt had like some sort of like daycare center at her house, but Jessica's mom was actually there when this happened. And so this also happened before we were born. So it's probably why we don't know the story super well, but we still knew enough because there's been a lot of like pop culture references and stuff to it since then. But the story goes that her mom went inside to answer a phone call and left Jessica unattended, and she fell 20 feet down into the well.
Oh my God.
Crazy. So they obviously call for help. Emergency responders arrived pretty quickly after the fall, but they realized this was going to be a difficult task, not only due to the depth, but the narrowness of the well. They had to take extreme caution because they didn't want to like go down and cut through part of the well and cause it to collapse on baby Jessica either.
But the narrowness probably saved her life in a way, right? From the fall?
Well,
who knows?
Yeah, I I don't know. It made it very difficult to get her out. And the story quickly made the news and they started broadcasting it. And this was like an international story where people all over the world were watching with bated breath through the 56-hour ordeal.
It was 56 hours?
6 hours. And
how many days? 2.5 days?
Yeah, people were glued to their televisions watching this.
Wow.
It's crazy now because I don't think that would even make news now other than local news because of how insane the world is.
It might, though.
Yeah.
A baby. It might. But also, I feel like we'd like fly a drone down there or something and like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there are different methods now. But even the president at the time, President Reagan, put out a statement saying everybody in America became godmothers and godfathers of Jessica while this was going on.
Wow.
That's how big of a fucking deal this was.
What year was this?
This was 1987.
Yeah.
There was a huge operation involving local oil drillers, mining engineers, and they had like jackhammers, water jet cutters, which were relatively new at the time. Anything and everything that they could to try and get through this well. And basically, I think they have to like dig next to it, you know what I mean? And try and go in that way.
Okay.
Like from the side.
But yeah, they can't have it collapse.
No. So 54 hours into the mission, they drilled into an adjacent shaft and they could hear baby Jessica, the 18-month-old baby, singing Winnie the Pooh.
No way. That makes me want to cry.
I know. According to the Wikipedia page, there was this roofing contractor named Ron Short who volunteered to go down the shaft because he was born without collarbones and he could collapse his shoulders in to work in tight confines.
Whoa.
Which I wonder if it's the same thing. I think that's what that kid from Stranger Things had, or the guy from Stranger Things, Gaten Madison.
Really?
Or whatever. I think he has a similar thing. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, they didn't end up doing that. There was a paramedic named Robert O'Donnell who was ultimately able to inch his way into the tunnel, wrestle Jessica free from her position because she was pinned inside the well with one leg above her forehead from the fall that entire time.
450. Jesus. Did she break anything?
Well, he hands her to a fellow paramedic who carries her up to safety before giving her to another paramedic who carried her to the waiting ambulance. She ended up, they thought they were going to have to amputate the leg because of like the lack of blood flow, but they were able to save her leg. However, she did lose one toe because of gangrene had set in because it was in that position for so long.
Okay.
But they made a television movie of the story in 1989 called Everybody's Baby, The Rescue of Jessica McClure, starring Beau Bridges and Patty Duke. And a lot of the people that were in the movie were actual people who were on the rescue mission.
I want to watch it. Can we watch it tonight?
We should watch it tonight. So Jessica did survive. Baby Jessica survived. But unfortunately, there was a lot of turmoil that followed afterwards. First, her parents, they were only 18. And 2.5 years later, they ended up filing for divorce. And I guess it was like all over the gossip rags at the time. And they were all publishing details about it. I guess it got kind of nasty, I guess. But a lot of it just seems like the limelight took its toll on them as a couple. And in another sad turn of events, the paramedic, Robert O'Donnell, who was the one to rescue Jessica, ended up taking his own life afterwards. From the Roanoke Times, 1995, baby Jessica rescuer commits suicide. Quote, nearly 8 years ago, the nation waited transfixed as paramedic Robert O'Donnell shimmied through a shaft to dislodge a toddler wedged down a well. On Monday, the body of the 37-year-old man who rescued Jessica McClure in 1987 was found on his parents' ranch near Stanton. O'Donnell wrote a suicide note and drove to a pasture where he apparently shot himself to death, Glasscock County Deputy Sheriff Fred Schroyer said. Quote, ever since that Jessica deal, his life fell apart, his brother Ricky said on Wednesday. Ricky O'Donnell said people had often asked his brother about the ordeal that began on October 14th of 1987 when the 18-month-old child fell 22 feet down into an abandoned well in her aunt's backyard in Midland. Robert O'Donnell and others worked 58 hours to reach Jessica, who was finally rescued on October 16th. O'Donnell was chosen to descend a newly drilled rescue shaft parallel to the well because of his slight frame. He went down once, but decided the opening rescuers had dug under the girl wasn't wide enough to pull her out without risking faking a paralyzing injury. On the second try in the widened shaft, he smeared a lubricating jelly around the hole and tugged on Jessica's dangling left leg. He said he prayed and cursed. The girl told him no, no, several times as he pulled. To me, she looked totally relieved, O'Donnell said after the rescue. I think she knew she was free. O'Donnell went on to portray a reporter in the made-for-TV movie about this rescue. His brother said he got divorced and quit the Midland Fire Department in 1992, so about 5 years later. There's a deal that happens when people are in these real stressful situations, O'Donnell said. It's so hard for them to deal with this afterwards. So it seems like it had a really tough effect on him.
Yeah, big time.
In her current life, Jessica has tried to keep a low profile. She's done like a few random interviews here and there on like big anniversaries, but she's gotten married, she's had 2 kids, and apparently using a trust fund that she received from worldwide donations during the event, she ended up purchasing a home 2 miles away from where the incident occurred.
Oh.
Now, Jessica's story is one of rarity when it comes to this type of situation.
It's like a miracle.
Yeah, the rest of the stories I'm going to talk about today don't have that same outcome.
Okay.
So about 40 years prior to the rescue of baby Jessica, back in April of 1949, a 3-year-old girl named Kathy Fiscus fell into an abandoned well near her home when she was out playing with her sister and cousin. And this well was much deeper, nearing 100 feet.
Ooh.
Her parents, neighbors, local authorities, same thing, quickly arrived on the scene and began digging alongside parallel shafts, but they were faced with several challenges, including uneven soil and the presence of water that added a huge risk of collapse. This was also one of the first times news was filming a live event like this and viewers were watching. They all had come together. There was like a nationwide vigil happening while Kathy was in the bottom of this well, just praying for Kathy's safe rescue. But unfortunately, 50 hours into the rescue mission, when they got to Kathy's body, she was deceased already, and the cause of death was due to lack of oxygen.
Oh.
So sad, 3 years old. This tragic outcome deeply affected the local community and the nation as a whole, and the incident led to increased public awareness about the dangers of abandoned wells and spurred efforts to ensure such hazards were properly secured to prevent future tragedies. And I read her headstone, and it says, Catherine Ann Fiscus, Kathy, one little girl who united the world for a moment.
Oh.
Sad. And then lastly, we have the story of Alfredo Rampy. Alfredo was just 6 years old when this incident occurred. It was June 10th, 1981, so only a few years before baby Jessica. Alfredo fell into an artesian well in Vermicino near Rome. This well was extremely narrow and very deep, about 80 meters, which equates to 262 feet.
Whoa.
The rescue operation was broadcast on live Italian television, drawing in unprecedented media attention, with millions of viewers glued to their screens, hoping for a positive outcome. But unfortunately, this would not be the case. Despite extensive rescue efforts, including digging parallel shafts, lowering volunteers to try and secure Alfredo, he tragically did not survive, and his death was confirmed on June 13th, 1981. This event highlighted the need for better coordination in emergency response, leading to the establishment of Italy's Ministry of Civil Protection in 1982. This ministry was instrumental in improving the country's ability to handle such emergencies more effectively. Alfredo's mother, Franca Rampy, played a pivotal role in advocating for these changes and founded the Rampy Center, which focuses on civil protection and safety. And the story has continued to resonate in Italy, leading to various cultural references, including a recent, at the time of this article, TV miniseries called Alfredino, Una Storia Italiana, which revisits the tragedy while re-emphasizing the impact on the nation's emergency response system. But that is not where this story ends. So this is pretty bizarre. There was some speculation that arose later on surrounding the circumstances of the accident. During Alfredo's autopsy, he apparently was wearing a harness. Whilst being questioned by the police, one of the rescuers said it was placed on him while he was falling in the hope that it might be used to save him, but this theory was challenged by the fire brigade who used a similar one, saying it would have been virtually impossible to have put it on him in the confines of the well. I guess there was like a legal case, and the judge of the case speculated that he may have been lowered into the well rather than falling in by accident. The investigations were, however, suspended as reaching a verdict was impossible, and I couldn't find anything else about this.
It fully
Was like being lowered in.
Yeah.
And something snapped or something.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And I didn't find anything else about it. And I wonder, this is purely fucking speculation, but I'm like, did he have a sibling or something who was like lowering him in? And the parents were like, we're not going to fucking let him get caught. Like,
yeah.
I wonder what happened there.
Or like to get maybe water was low or so. I don't know.
Strange. Well, or it was just like, someone trying to be like, what's down this well?
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you. Well.
You're welcome. Well. That was my little deep dive into wells. But, I mean, baby Jessica really is fucking lucky that she survived.
That's such an incredible story.
It really is when you actually think about it. Wells are not these super wide orifices. They are usually a couple inches in width.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy that she fell, was leg above her head the whole time for 50-something hours and made it out pretty unscathed.
But I can see how dangerous, like to a kid, I would probably just like hop over one or step in one thinking that there's ground right there, like a potter.
Even if I knew it was a well, if I was a kid, I'm probably trying to fucking go down there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I was crawling under the house and stuff. Like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was fucking jumping out windows, everything.
Oh, all right.
I was sneaking out.
Oh, for sure, sneaking out. God, remember the fear sneaking out?
No, I was a bad kid, so I was like, fuck it.
Oh my God. No, I mean, I was so scared because my parents had sensor lights everywhere. And so I would like sneak out of my window, and then I'd have to hop over a fence to get to a different side of the street. I remember when my siblings, I have an older sister, but then I have two younger siblings. And I remember when I bought my dad a Ring camera when they came out for his house. And I remember being like, sorry for fucking up your game. Like,
yeah.
But they're also so much younger that they don't have the same rules we had or anything.
Yeah.
Ours was like, I just loved sneaking out.
See, I was the baby too. So I'm kind of like your siblings. Like my parents have went through 4 other kids who turned out just fine, and we're like, okay.
Yeah. Meanwhile, this one's getting tackled in a Mervin's parking lot.
Every episode you bring it up.
Sorry. It's my favorite part of your lore. All right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go play fetch with Hot Dog for a second. And when we come back, we'll find out what had you been in your coffin.
Alrighty.
We'll be right back. And we're back. What had you spinning in your coffin this week?
Well, before I tell you guys, I want to start off with a quote. I'm not particularly worried. It's an experiment. Perhaps it won't serve any purpose to save lives or anything, but people can still learn from it. That's what we all strive for, is to learn.
Hey, that's true.
Right? Those were the words of a 61-year-old man named Alan Billis before he was set to be mummified in 2011.
Mummy man.
Mummy man. Not only that, but the whole process was going to be documented for a TV documentary in the UK by Channel 4. And it's a little bit frustrating because you cannot find the documentary anywhere, but I was able to kind of piece it together through like an hour of different clips I found on Vimeo of all places.
Okay. I've been there.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I'm like, I will pay to watch this. But the documentary is called Mummifying Alan, Egypt's Last Secret.
Ooh.
And before I get into the whole process, I need to tell you a little bit about Alan, his family, and the reasons why someone would volunteer to be mummified and have it filmed. A decision that was really pretty polarizing among the public in 2011. And I just have to say,
this was in 2011?
This is in 2011. You see the whole entire process on this documentary.
Well, I want to watch that tonight.
We can't. I mean, I can show you all the Vimeo things. We can piece it together again. But Alan Billis was a taxi driver living in the UK. He was married to his wife, Jan. They married in 1973, and they have 3 children. Actually, when he met Jan, 2 of those children were hers, but he stepped up and was a great stepfather, and they had one of their own as well. He wasn't super hands-on, however. His wife told the Daily Mail, quote, "I once took a picture of him cleaning our windows as it was the only time I'd ever seen him with a cloth in his hand." But he really, truly blossomed, though, when he became a grandfather. From that same article, it says, quote, "Once the grandchildren started to come along, that was it," says Jan. He absolutely loved them and was infinitely more hands-on than he'd been with his own kids. He changed his shifts to nights so he could spend time in the day with them. His daughter recalls, "Dad used to joke that people should have their grandchildren first, as it would make them appreciate their children more." And I can attest to that with, like, my dad is so sweet and soft with all the grandkids, but he was like a hard ass on us, you know? Alan was also a smoker, and in 2008, he started to develop like this hacky kind of persistent cough, and he went through months and months of tests and finally received a diagnosis, which was unfortunately terminal lung cancer, and he was only given a few months to live. So Alan wasn't the type to make anything like that a huge fuss. He wasn't religious. He just kind of thought when you die, you die. And he really didn't make a big fuss out of it. He was very matter of fact and seemed to take the diagnosis in stride. It was no big deal. But the only thing that really kind of messed with his head was having to say goodbye to his grandchildren, because he was like grandfather of the year. As much as he was not dramatic about that kind of stuff and the afterlife, his family does also describe him as making big declarations, being the center of attention, and kind of loving drama of things. So it was the dichotomy, you know?
Yeah.
He loved a debate about politics and was just generally someone you couldn't ignore. And they obviously describe it in a very warm, loving way, which is why a few weeks after his terminal prognosis, when he showed his wife an ad in the newspaper that was asking for volunteers to have their bodies mummified after they died, and told her that he had already applied, she wasn't really shocked.
Okay.
She was like, "This isn't serious. This is just one of his big crazy declarations," right?
Jeez.
Well, the man who wanted a donor, the man who put out an ad in the newspaper for a mummy donor, was a scientist named Stephen Buckley. He and researchers from Britain's York University wanted to perform a mummification on a willing participant in the style and secret recipes that Stephen had studied for years. Mummifying someone in the way Egyptians have isn't like a new thing, but Stephen had this secret recipe, and he also really wanted to mummify someone the way they did in the 18th dynasty of Egypt.
So it was like specific.
Very specific. And people that came out of the 18th dynasty were royalty like King Tut, Nefertiti, and Hatshepsut.
Oh, Queen Hatshepsut.
Yeah.
The beauty queen.
Yes. So Stephen also had the help from archaeologist Joe Fletcher, who is also an Egyptologist. The whole thing's crazy, and we'll post pictures. His family will get to it, but like, it's really incredible seeing this whole process. Like, everybody got to see it. It was a documentary. But what's even crazier is that Alan was the only person who applied for this.
Oh, well.
Well, like, I don't know. It is crazy, isn't it? I don't know. But before he knew he was like the candidate, his family says that he got increasingly more into the idea of being mummified. He truly felt that this was going to not only benefit science, but most importantly to him, leave behind something really cool that his grandchildren could be proud of, like a legacy of some sort.
It is kind of cool. Like, honestly, I'm not against that as a concept.
No, and he's all for, I mean, we're against someone donating to science, and we've talked about this before, and then having a public autopsy, like,
of course.
We talked about that. But like, he was a more than willing participant, right?
Being mummified would be kind of a vibe.
Oh, such a vibe. Absolutely.
Like, if you're mummified in the way where you're like in the wrappings and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's cool. I wouldn't want to be mummified where you're just like kind of dehydrated out.
Right. we'll get into the whole thing. You'll see. They did him right. They did him right. When Alan got word that he was chosen, he was very pleased, and everyone around him had his back and gave him their blessing, including his wife and children. He would even shout, like just throughout the house, I'm going to be Tootin' Alan instead of Tutankhamun. Like he was so excited. And he told the documentarians, quote, if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world, is it? Don't make any difference to me. I'm not going to feel it. True. It's still bloody interesting. He was pretty bummed, though, that he wouldn't be able to see it because he really likes documentaries. So on January 14th, 2011, he passed away and was transferred to the Sheffield's Medico-Legal Center. This is where Stephen Buckley and his team began the mummification process. So Stephen Buckley, like I said earlier, was pretty obsessed with how the Egyptians mummified their bodies. He studied them intensely, using a ton of different tools and x-rays to identify what materials and ingredients were used in the mummification process. And remember when we did a whole episode on how Egyptians mummified their dead, and we talked about how they would extract the individual's brain from their nose?
Yes, with the hook thing.
Exactly. Well, that was something that Stephen did not do with Alan because he recalls some very famous mummies still having shrunken brains in their head when he x-rayed them. Okay. So it really was like specific to the 18th dynasty, like how he was going to do Alan. He also had built out a medical shed in his backyard where he practiced the exact recipe that he would use on Alan on pig legs, and even mastered mummifying a little piglet. And he recreated the desert weather and conditions in that little shed. But to him, doing this on an actual human was like the final test.
Yeah.
So back to Alan, the process begins with making an incision on the left side of his body. All of his organs are removed except for his brain, like I mentioned, but his heart also was left in place. So everything else went, his heart and his brain stayed.
Okay.
Then it was time to remove all the moisture from Alan's body. To dry the body, the key ingredient was a uniquely Egyptian form of salt called inorganic salt natron. Natron has been mined for thousands of years in dry lake beds, and it was used by Egyptians for washing clothes, for example, and cleaning teeth, but also removing moisture from a deceased person.
Okay, got it.
So first they coated Alan's body with an ancient treatment, which was sesame oil, and then pine resin and beeswax. When the sesame oil dries, the beeswax and pine resin form like a barrier layer on his skin, and then they lower him into this saltwater solution. They left him in that saltwater solution for 35 days. And again, all of this is shown, by the way. It's incredibly fascinating. The saltwater bath he's put into is completely clear, so you just see him submerged, kind of floating around. And
yesterday, remember I told you I took an Epsom salt bath?
Yeah, exactly. In the documentary, his wife even says at one point, she goes, "Oh, he's swimming around in his tank, probably having a lovely time." After those 35 days, his body's taken out and then put into a drying chamber, and everything seemed to be running really smoothly until day 49.
Oh, what happened at day 49?
Day 49, this was 2 weeks after the drying process. One of the researchers finds maggots in Alan's right ear. So,
shit.
They don't freak out because they have an ancient Egyptian insecticide, which I believe is kind of like what they put on him, which was like a pine sap. But you see them put it into a big syringe. It looks like honey. And they inject it into his ear because I guess that sap will kind of kill any insect or anything in there and trap them. So good news is that stopped the maggots. Also some good news is that his body started to feel like leather, which was a very good sign, and he was still very, very lifelike and recognizable. He just looked like he had a little tan and was sleeping.
Okay.
Then they needed to wrap him like you would picture like a mummy. In the clip, one of the clips I saw, one of the researchers was saying like wrapping his face is pretty emotional because it's like the final, it's kind of the final thing. But wrapping keeps out direct light, it regulates the drying process, and it keeps out any other insects. And the bandages were coated in spices and oils and resins. And they were saying like you have to wrap him like the Egyptians were pros at wrapping a body, and they followed those steps completely. And they were saying like you can't wrap them too tight or too loose. And then once wrapped, Alan was left like that to dry out even more for 6 more weeks. The part of the documentary that was wild was unwrapping him at the end of the months-long process to see if their experiment had worked, because you kind of are on the edge of your seat. You're like, is it going to work? Is it going to be terrifying, But it was an absolute success. His hair was preserved. The stubble on his face was preserved. His eyebrows. He still looked like himself, albeit a little more tan and a little more like maybe bloated. I don't know if that's the right word, but he looked honestly great. There were close-up shots of everything, his hands, his toes, and his nails. Like everything just looked pretty damn good. Archaeologist Joe Fletcher started crying when she saw him in a good way and said, after 3,500 years, we're the first people to see a mummy produced in this way.
Wow.
Something I also was thinking about was funeral arrangements, like what was going to happen after. Would family come visit? Where is he going to go? Like what now? Okay, he's a mummy, but what now, right?
Yeah. Okay. He's a mummy. We get it.
We get it, but what now? Well, Jan, Alan's wife, visited him shortly after he was done with the process and opted not to see him unwrapped, which I think is smart.
Yeah.
She also says that she wasn't super emotional about it, but she did touch his hand, telling the Daily Mail, quote, "I was surprised at how soft he was. I thought he would feel rock hard, but he was quite springy. I didn't feel emotional. Sometimes I feel guilty about that, but that's not my way. This was what Alan wanted, and I felt the team had looked after him beautifully and treated him with huge respect.
Aww.
This way, he has had far more care than he could have ever hoped for. He has been treated like a king, and he would have loved that. It is a sentiment echoed by all the family who gathered earlier this week to watch the finished documentary," the Daily Mail says. "I was a bit worried about watching Dad's organs being taken out, so his family sat and watched this documentary.
Jeez.
I thought it would be upsetting, but it didn't seem like Dad. His wife, Jan, felt the same. When I finally saw his mummified face, it was a case of, yes, that's Alan. It wasn't upsetting at all. Still, she admits she's in no rush to go back to Sheffield to see his mummified body again. I know he's being looked after, and that's the main thing," she says. That article, which I will link, also goes on to say, and it answers some other questions, quote, "Alan will remain at the Medico-Legal Center until the end of the year, but after that, his fate remains undecided. Although Jan can, if she wishes, request his burial at any time," which I thought is great.
Yes.
She says, "I won't do that. It would seem such a waste after everything they've done. He could last for 3,000 years as he is. Personally, I'd like to see him go to a museum. That's what Alan would have wanted. He talked about being in a display case and having a little mechanical arm you could pull to make him wave. Although I accept that's unlikely. If he does end up in a museum, would she visit him? Definitely, she says. We'd get a season ticket," adds her daughter. "All the grandchildren would love it. It's been very exciting for them. So at least he's achieved what he set out to do," which I thought was just so cool. They have such a cool grip on, losing a loved one.
Yeah, they have a good viewpoint.
I do believe since this, his body has traveled around quite a bit and made some appearances.
Oh, he's gone on tour.
Yeah, and now I believe he's housed at King's College London in their Gordon Museum of Pathology, and I think that's his forever home. But I'd like to leave you with one last quote from Alan. "I'd like to hope I'm going to be missed. I've had quite a good life. I'm just hanging around a little bit longer, that's all. It's que sera, as they say, isn't it?"
Que sera,
Doris Day. Whatever will be, will be.
Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. Just got a glimpse into our future.
stars to see.
That's enough.
Okay.
Okay. Love that. What a great way to memorialize someone by turning them into a mummy. Another great way to memorialize somebody is by writing them a beautiful obituary.
Okay.
And we've got one for our girl, Monica, today. I found this one randomly online. Not going to say her last name because it's recent. It says, Monica, the biggest little badass, the fighting southpaw from the Poconos, a.k.a. Miss BAMF, badass motherfucker,
Damn.
was welcomed into heaven on Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. Monica was born with a fire in her soul and her heart on her sleeve. Destined for greatness and compassionate beyond measure, Monica was always someone you could count on for a kind word, a supportive smile, the warmest of hugs, good-natured mischief, 80s music, and a cold beer. She had an uncanny gift of knowing exactly which of those you needed and in which order you needed them. She attended and graduated from Lansdale Catholic High School, where she met and fell in love with her husband and soulmate, Joe. Following Monica's graduation, they married in 1991 and moved to Wilmington, Delaware, where Monica began her incredible and storied career with the Delaware Division of Services for Children, Youth and Their Families, and the Division of Family Services. For over 25 years, Monica touched the lives of hundreds of children and families, never left a single one of them behind. She was a fearless investigator and a kind, empathetic liaison. Her tireless efforts to support Delaware families earned her the Melson Arsht Inn of Courts and DeSales University Distinguished Alumni Awards. Upon her retirement, Monica and Joe fulfilled their desire to return to Pennsylvania and lovingly create a new home. Her presence is felt throughout their home in the carefully curated knickknacks, full of Christmas spirit, year-round surrounded by signs of positivity and quotes by A.A. Milne, Walt Disney, Dorothy Gale, and a couch so comfortable you would have to fight their sweet dogs Bogart, Isabel, and Maggie May for a seat. She passed away surrounded by the beauty and warmth of the Pocono Mountains. Love her. A badass
motherfucker. Okay. Love her.
Love her.
I have one that was sent to me from my cousin.
Okay.
He wrote to me, he said, here's some material for your podcast. And I had to look it up, and it is a real obituary.
Oh, one of those. Okay, let's hear it.
It's one of those. Sucky Richard S. Dick.
Sucky Richard's dick.
Sucky Richard Dick. Sucky Dick. Age 83 of Oak Grove, passed away on September 7th, 2019, preceded in death by his son, Rick, survived by his wife of 62 years, Barb, 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and many other loving relatives and friends. That's it. Sucky Dick. Look at the newspaper clipping.
Sucky Dick.
Sucky Dick.
God, love it. We have spun in our coffins.
We have bitched our obituaries.
It's time for some dumb
ass
criminals. And mine is a little fucking old Dennis the Menace.
Okay, I love it.
Los Angeles Times, an 81-year-old man is charged with terrorizing his Azusa neighbors with a slingshot.
Oh no.
The elderly man neighbors knew as Wick seemed to some residents to be a busybody, but to others he acted like a guardian, taking note of every suspicious behavior in his street and keeping neighbors informed. So it came as a surprise to many residents of this working-class neighborhood when Azusa police and SWAT officers blocked off streets near North Enid Avenue and Crescent Drive and arrested 81-year-old Prince King. For about 10 years, police said in a statement, King terrorized the neighborhood by shooting metal ball bearings with a slingshot, breaking house windows, car windshields, and nearly striking neighbors themselves. In his house, investigators say they found ball bearings and a slingshot. 81. I never thought he could be doing that, said Naomi Reynoso, a 46-year-old neighbor. The neighborhood was plagued for years by flying metal ball bearings that shattered windows and struck house walls, she said. Neighbors didn't know who was shooting the ball bearings or for what reason. King was charged last week with 7 counts of vandalism, and he pleaded not guilty in court on Tuesday. Another neighbor who asked not to be identified for safety reasons, they're like, I'm scared of that slingshot.
I'm scared too.
Said a ball bearing came crashing through 2 windows in his neighborhood about 9 years ago. He didn't think much of it until he heard of similar incidents in the same area. King didn't come out of his home much, the neighbor said, except to mow his lawn or wash his car. Still, the man they knew as Wick waved to neighbors and seemed friendly. Once, he said, King saw that he was changing a flat tire in his car and offered to lend him his jack. Neighbors said they didn't know how King got the nickname Wick, but it was the name by which some of them knew him when he first moved to the neighborhood. If King was behind the vandalism, the neighbor said, he's not sure why he'd do it. We never had an argument or anything. I still can't believe that someone that is 80 years old would do this.
Wow.
About 3 weeks ago, a piece from his front door panel was broken off, the neighbor said. He thought at first it was old wood, but then found a ball bearing on the ground outside. Another time, he was outside smoking a cigarette when he heard something whiz rapidly by his head. He put out his cigarette and went inside. King, who has lived in the neighborhood for decades, also seemed to be informed about the comings and goings on the block. When a strange car would park on the block, the neighbor said King would share details of the car. He's a little fucking menace.
I know.
Once, Reynosa said, King approached her and told her that someone late at night had tried to steal gasoline from her car. He knew everything. A lot of things were happening around the block, she said. He sometimes came across as a busybody, she said, but many residents thought he was watching out for the neighborhood. She was targeted herself by a ball bearing about 8 or 9 years ago, but has no idea why. King sometimes had disagreements with neighbors, she said. He didn't like people parking on his side of the street, and would sometimes block it with his cars or trash cans, but nothing seemed to escalate. Neither King nor his defense attorney could be reached for comment. During King's court hearing on Tuesday, a judge released him on his own recognizance, but he was ordered to stay at least 200 yards away from the homes of the identified victims. Another neighbor walked out to King's house and placed a sign and a message on the front yard that seemed to be directed at him that said, "Stay away, Wick."
Oh my gosh.
That fuckers better watch their back, because they're gonna...
I know, but you know what? You gotta love this spirit.
Nothing like an old man with a slingshot.
I mean, come on. But a metal ball bearing, that's scary.
Yeah, he could fuck shit up.
He could fuck shit up. Wow. Never underestimate a sweet old man.
Never underestimate.
God. Okay, I have a short one, but the headline made me crack up out loud when I read it. It says, mop wearing Florida man looking for eggs, terrified entire family.
Oh no, what'd he do?
This is from 2017 Cairo7.com. One Florida man proved Halloween is never out of season in Florida. Police say James Disney Fields, 58, of Port St. Lucie, wore a mop on his head like a mask while banging on a neighbor's door on January 13th. According to a police report, when the neighbors opened the door, he saw the mop-adorned Fields and couldn't understand him, so he closed and locked the door. Fields continued his door-knocking antics and added in some doorbell ringing with the end of the mop. God. The neighbor identified Fields as the man who terrified his entire family, police said. When police found Fields and asked what he was up to, he reportedly told officers, "I was short of an egg and needed eggs to make a cake." Fields had a mop on his head. Fields was arrested on disturbing the peace charge. He remains in jail on $9,000 total bail from the January 13th incident and charges from a previous unrelated incident, which I wonder what that is.
God, who knows? A Swiffer on his dick.
Just terrorizing neighbors.
God, bad neighbors. 2 guys I would never want as a neighbor.
I know.
Oh, God. Well, I think that's where we'll leave it for the week. But there's so much good stuff you can find on obituarypodcast.com, including our cameo, which is currently on for a little bit. And then we got to close it again because we got some other stuff coming up. But we got a lot coming down the pipeline, including our book, which is coming out this August. And you can pre-order it right now. Where can you get it, Madison?
prh.com/obituary.
And if this isn't enough of us yapping, you can head on over to our Patreon, where we randomly put things up sometimes. But we will be doing that right now. And that is patreon.com/cultleader. And that's it for the week, but we'll be back next week. Of course we will.
Of course we will.
You know what? If there's one thing you can fucking count on,
is us.
Rain or snow.
Oh, snow.
Rain or snow. Slingshots. Whatever.
Mops.
We're going to be there.
We're going to be there.
Love you guys, and we'll see you next time with some more coffin spinners.
Obituaries.
And dumb
ass criminals.
Goodbye.
Bye.